Welcome to the fourth session of our electronic tea. You've been hearing about what inspires us. Now we will start to talk about what challenges us most. As a mother to two very, very different children, I can certainly say that working with a strong developmental curriculum with multiple age children has absolutely required my deepest creativity and flexibility. Some pretty wonderful things have come of it. You see, in Enki, with a really strong developmental focus, we really strive to meet the child where he is. The question then arises, how do we do this with multiple age children? How do we do this so each one is met? How do we do this so that the family unit as a whole is nourished? And how do we do this so that the parent-teacher is nourished and not drained? Fortunately, within the Enki approach, really the heart of the Enki approach is that we adapt pedagogy to serve the family. In this way, we can work with multiple children, meet that developmental mirror, that developmental approach, while at the same time looking at how do we do that within a family. The mothers in the chat all have 2, 3 children of different age spreads. And let's listen about how they have worked with this challenge and found the blessing.
And so people oftentimes ask me, why on earth would you put 2 kids 2 years apart in the same grade? And I'm like, and I have to go back to, well, because it's healthy for me. I don't have to prepare 2 grades. I don't have to worry about having different things going on at the same time. And it works very well for myself. And so then they're going to be in a much better place. And to be able to put them in the same grade and only have to do one curriculum at a time is it just, I don't know, it just that's the thing that nourishes me the most.
So siblings, I have always, my boys are almost 3 years apart, so it's never worked to put them together. They've been so far apart developmentally. So, and especially when Knox was little, he's just doing first grade now. So he's just tagged along. He either, while I'm doing work with Phineas, he'll either play in another room if I'm doing reading stories, or if we're doing seat work, he has a book of his own and he'll grab his crayons and he'll draw his own pictures, and they're usually not what we're doing, but sometimes we'll turn around and find that he's drawn a picture of Harriet Tubman. and she's in a cart and she's going away, and it's like, oh wow, he's really listening more. It will be real interesting to see if I do Harriet Tubman with him, what comes back up. But it's been, they're too far apart to put together, and they're to put together in one grade level. And they've always been Knox has always been way too interested in what's going on than to leave. So we've tried putting him in another room and giving him toys, but mostly, we throw a rug down on the floor or give him a little seat of his own and let him be near us. And that's pretty much how we've dealt with the sibling thing.
So working with siblings certainly has been a place that has challenged my creativity. And a lot of what Tosca shared about the earlier years echoes what my experience with it was, in that mine are 3.5 years apart in age, but because of where they are developmentally and kind of how we do our school year, they are 4 grade levels apart. So right now, Joseph is in 8th grade and Rebecca is in 4th grade. When they were younger, so I would say almost through Rebecca doing 1st grade, as I did Joseph's work, she would play or engage in some type of activity. The place where I worked to have some space from Rebecca in those early years was when I was doing Joseph's story work, feeling that developmentally that really was content that was too much for Rebecca. I find it interesting, Tosca, you talked about what it'll be like when your younger one comes up to Harriet Tubman or some of the other works you've done. And what I have found with Rebecca is even though she didn't have the story, certainly she saw the drawings, she heard the recall, she knew what was, you know, circling around for Joseph. And what it has led to is a real excitement for her. I mean, right now we were just finishing up Egypt, and she's been wanting to do ancient Egypt for years now and knew what Joseph's experience of that was.
Having more than one kid in Enki can be difficult. It has been especially difficult for me. I really want to bring them, I really want to meet their needs as best as possible. And I have had a hard time letting go of trying to do two curriculums at once. I cannot meet the most important thing, the thing that I love the most about Enki is the cultural aspects, and especially, you know, during second and third grade is really delving into a culture and doing the dance and the music and the food from the culture as a whole part of the curriculum is one of the things I find so beautiful. And if you're trying to do two grades, it's very difficult to match those up in a way to where you could do the stories for one kid in one culture and the stories for the other kid, and how do you fit them together? So for me, the biggest challenge has been letting go of that for teacher help and finding the way to do my best to meet both their needs on one curriculum. And I've had a lot of support from the group and from Beth, and that's been great, just being able to read everybody's posts online and see how other people have done it. And I know in my heart that it will work out. I also know that I couldn't do it any other way.
I know everybody can't do that because people have lots of children or children that are very separate, but mine are 21 months apart, and well, for us to be able to merge them in the same grade, and developmentally they were for a very long time in the same space. They are getting further apart, and so we have to work with that. But I'm better at it now that I've been doing it for 5 years. So there we go.
The other real gift with the siblings and Joseph having done that is that once Rebecca got second and into third grade, and then where he was age-wise, he has been very much involved in, well, one, just enjoying his sister meeting material he's already met before, and some of it every year. I always look for places that I can include him in the content she's covering in a way that he can go deeper with it at his age level. A great example is this year for the fourth grader with Rebecca, we're doing animal studies, which was something Joseph really, really enjoyed. Rebecca has been looking forward to doing this for years now. And I made a decision that Joseph would join us in that. So he did an animal study as well that was tied in with the cultural unit he was working on. And at his level. So my expectation for him and what he did was more than Rebecca's, but it was a really enjoyable shared experience for both of them. So I would say overall, it's just been over the years, ebbing and flowing and finding the places they can come together. We've always done movement together. I've always included Rebecca as she can developmentally in Joseph's project work, vice versa. Joseph joining in, so, you know, in third grade with Rebecca, we made the adobe oven. Joseph was right in there with us, smushing the mud. He was with us collecting the logs for the longhouse. And it's funny because when I reflect back to making the longhouse for Joseph, Rebecca was along, but she was in the back of the truck laughing about the leaves and playing. Whereas now doing it with the older one, Joseph's in there sawing and showing Rebecca how to hold the axe and how to collect. So it's just energetically different, but they're both working with that content together. Another place that I have found having siblings to be a great support and just really enjoyable overall would be in the places where Joseph, my older child, will actually teach Rebecca, the younger, content that we're working on. And so when we would have place value all over the floor with the manipulatives, prior to that, I will have talked with Joseph and said, how about you carry this part of that with Rebecca? And then I just pull back and watch as he engages with her, and just energetically to see them do that is wonderful. For him, it's a solidifying and really, really mastering that content. And for Rebecca, energetically, it's different to have her brother and being able to do that work with him rather than me as the parent teacher.
It's really cool to hear that. When we just did an odd consonant story with Knox, and Phineas walked in and said, did we do this story? Oh yeah, I remember that. And sitting in and helping his brother to look for the sounds of the words, which was, definitely not part of the plan, but it worked. It really worked well. And it'll be interesting to see how they take on that challenge, going from one engaged in the work with the little one tagging along, to them both being engaged in the work, the one whose work it is, but the other one is more engaged, the older one being more engaged than the younger one was at the previous time. Like when you were talking about, sitting in the back of the truck, just singing and talking about the leaves.
Right.
And I mean, that's Knox, skipping along, but to actually, get to a point where, Phineas is not just doing his thing, but he's actively engaged in something he's already done, and getting that second level, the places where I may have missed things with Phineas, he'll get a second shot, a booster.
You're all talking about how do we take the information that's there and the materials that are there and make them fit our family. So one of the really big things in Enki, we talk about it as the joining of the vision and the practicality. But we have a lot of material, a tremendous amount of material. And if you become a slave to that material, instead of having that material support you, you lose sight of your child.